Record this. Hello, guys. Welcome to our mindset call. It is the final mindset call of the year 2022, and I'm so excited that we are alive and blessed to be able to hear it with our notebooks and pens ready to go. And I honestly believe that this call is going to kickstart some people into the new year. The call in itself, we entitled it to Forget the Past, Focus on Future, and Forget Fitting In. And I'm going to be transparent on this call, and we're going to have a conversation about it. But I've shared my testimony before of feeling like I never quite fit in anywhere. Has anybody ever been in that mind frame where you feel like you just don't fit in, that you're maybe like a misfit? And for me, it happened, I became aware of it. I mean, I've always felt like I never fit in. I've always felt like that from a young age at school, up until, I went into business, when I worked in the bank. Like, I always felt like I was a little bit of a misfit. And one of the things for me where it became apparent was when I wanted to, I so desperately wanted to fit in with the popular people, but I wasn't bad enough. I was too good for the bad lot, but I was not saved enough for the Christian lot. I felt like I was a little bit in between. I don't know if you've ever felt like that, where you feel like I didn't know as much as them. I wasn't as bad as them. I couldn't, and I used to just compare myself. And I used to, even from school, I used to say my nose was bigger. I wasn't the makeup girl. I used to hang with the boys. I was more of a tomboy. And I never fitted in. And I always felt like I didn't fit in. Now, when you feel like you don't fit in, one of two things happen. You either become quite bolshy and I don't care what no one says anyway, and you pretend that you don't care, and you just come across very, attitude-ish and ignorant. Or what you do is you do your best to people please, to them fit in. You go from one extreme to the next. And I went to both extremes, where I was doing things like, I don't know if you guys can experience anything like it, where I was overcompensating in areas that was actually damaging myself. There were times when I would give away time and resources, time away from, I remember one time I had brand new baby, my first baby, and it was like 2 weeks old. And I wasn't even, really healed yet. And there was a friend in need, and I left my baby with a friend to go and support that friend, even though it was really damaging to my health, and it wasn't that deep anyway. And it was this need to overcompensate. And then I went to the other spectrum, where everyone was against me. So I didn't want to make too much friends. I didn't want to get too close to people because everyone was always against me. And I had to realize and embrace, and this is something that I think is very, very important, is I had to embrace who God called me to be. Because when you feel like you have to get your acceptance from people, you will forever be disappointed. And I had to look myself in the mirror and say, Nikki, stop looking for approval and acceptance from people. I have to be strong enough to be who he called me to be, unapologetically about it. And that was a very, very tough decision to do. And so 3 o'clock this morning, I'm tussling, I can't sleep. And God has me turn the TV on, and on the TV is Saul on the Damascus Road. And I'm on there, and I'm like, a lot of us know the story, but I looked at it from a completely different angle. And I'm looking and I'm seeing this whole thing right in front of my eyes, and the revelation hit me there and then. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had an encounter with God, and what you believed in overnight literally changes. Have you ever been that person that says, I will never do that? I will never. Listen, and one encounter with God, and your entire being, your entire belief system, your entire everything that you've ever believed in can just switch. One encounter, one tiny little encounter with God can completely, radically change your life. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this thing, and I'm like, hold up. So this is the guy that was literally killing Christians, guys. He was against Christians. He was actually on the way to see how many more Christians he could murk. Like, those of you know me, know that I like to ghettoify the Bible, right? So he is going to hunt down Christians. He's not about that life. In fact, he's coming from a camp where they designed to bring down the Christians. And of course, during that time, they weren't Christians, they're believers of God. And he is now on the route. He's on the route to do as much damage to the men and women of God as possible. He has an assignment to go and do this. And one encounter with God, and if I remember the story rightly, what happened is he gets knocked off his horse or whatever it is that he was riding. What was it? He was riding something anyway. He's riding and gets knocked off, and man goes blind instantly. Like, he's blind now, right? And he gets knocked off. And long story short, the next time when he opens up his eyes, in the midst of that, he's had an encounter with God. And now he begins to instantly preach the word, the gospel. Now, this is something that I had to chuckle at. Because remember, guys, he can't go back to the homeboys that he used to jam with, because they all are the ones that were helping him to go do damage to the people of God. So he don't fit in there no more, right? But then the ones that he wanted to roll with, remember the guy that even, God told him to pray for him, didn't even want to do it really, because he's like, no, well, I got to pray for him. He's the enemy. He's the one that wanted to come and kill me. And now I'm going to pray for this guy. How many of you have ever had an instruction from God to pray for someone that wanted to hurt you? Guys, literally, he's now, he don't fit in with the new gang, because they're probably looking at him a little bit side-eye, like, hold up now. Like, you're one of us now? Like, you literally was on the route to come and kill us, on the route to slander our name. And now you're saying you're one of us, and we got to pray for you now to help you to be able to see, right? And now you're in the middle of these two different sides. And it could have been very easy to say, you know what, this mission is too big for me, Lord. I don't feel like I'm good enough. How many of you have ever been given a mission and you're like, oh, do I know if I can do this? Do I know if I can really do this? Is this something that I can do? I see it for everybody else. I see how they can do it, but where I'm coming from, my past, like, if you knew who I was, if you know where I'm coming from, can I really do this? I don't fit in. How can I do this? What is it that makes me qualified? Let me tell you this, and this is very serious. You see, when when the Lord anoints you for something, it doesn't matter who is against you. It doesn't matter what weapons are thrown at you. If you are anointed by God to do something, there is nothing, the weapons are going to be thrown, but there's nothing at all, nothing that can hold you back. You know what holds us back is our own thoughts, our own mind, our own paradigms. When we start listening to ourselves instead of the word, when we start listening to ourselves instead of where it is that God wants us to go, when we start telling ourselves that we can't do it, we can't start telling ourselves, because how many of you have ever done something in your own strength and that's why you failed? Or we wanted to do it in our own strength in our own way, in our own will. We thought we didn't pray about it at that time because we thought, okay, yeah, I've got this covered. And so if we're going to judge it on our own strength, then yeah, sure, of course we're going to fail. But if we only lean on the strength that we know has ordained us in the first place. Now, let me go back and have a look at here real quick about something, because this is a big one. How many of us have ever been beating ourselves up about the past? Always looking back. This is what, when we're going into this new season, one of the things that we must not do, guys, is beat ourselves up over the past. The past is the past. We got to let it go. We have to let it go. Like, we must go into the new season prepared and ready for wherever he wants us to be, for whatever he wants us to do. We must let go of the past. Some of us are holding ourselves back. Some of us are hurting our own self and our mission because we keep holding on to the past. What past are we talking about? Past pain, past hurt, past failures, past issues, past mistakes. How many of us are perfect on this call? Put 7 in the chat if you are far from perfect. I'm gonna be the first one to, can you put 1,000,000 7s? Right? We have all fallen short, facts. But if we keep talking about all the things we can't do, talking about all the things we've done wrong, keep beating ourselves up over the past, one of the things that we have to do is forgive ourselves. To let go of the self-hate, to let go of the self-sabotage, let go of some of the things that we know is hurting us. Who do we need to forgive? What is the things that we need to let go of before we transition into the new season? Because sometimes that's the weight that's holding us down. Sometimes those are the things that we need to shake off. It's not the work ethic. Some of us have all the work ethic in the world. How many of us know we work hard? It's not through work ethic. Some of us have such a great work ethic, it's insane. But half the time, the reason why we haven't seen the breakthrough is not because of the work ethic. It's a spiritual. How many of us have heard a word and haven't acted on the word? There's a word that I heard when I first got saved. I used to hear this word all the time, but slowly that word just disappears. And I'm going to say that word, and maybe you guys have heard it as well, but I don't know if it's being said that often anymore. But it's obedience. That word obedience, like, even when I hear the word obedience, I get convicted. You ever know what I'm talking about? Like, are you obedient to the mission and the purpose on your life? Like, are you hearing the word and then going to be the word? Or are you telling yourself, okay, maybe it's too hard. Maybe somebody else, or maybe next year. How many of you put things off? How many of you were the person that used to put things off? Not anymore. Putting it off till next week, next year. I feel like this season that we're in is a season of newness for a lot of us. There's a new thing taking place. There's new giftings. There's new environments, maybe new friends, new mentors, there's a newness, this environment, this season that we're in. And when there's a newness, there's also a temptation to do what? Go back to the oldness. And we have to be mindful, okay? This is something that I heard when God was talking to me. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's not working. Just because you don't see, you see this instant gratification thing that we're used to these days. So you do a little bit of the work, you're obedient for a little bit of time, and then you say, okay, maybe God, I should do it this way because it's not. Who remembers that guy? Remember Abraham and Sarah? Who remembers them? They're like, oh yeah, God's gonna deliver. We want me the father of many nations. And then after a couple years, well, it was more than a couple years, but you understand what I mean. After a little while, Sarah, bright idea. Maybe God needed help. So maybe you should sleep with the little servant. Maybe that's how God wanted it. And we already know the story, what happens there, Isaac and Ishmael, blah, 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 blah. But the point is, God don't need no help. He created everything with the word. And I heard something today that I have to share. I heard Pastor Luke say it, and it just hit me, because I was like, this is in alignment. How many of us understand that the word is power, right? This is scripture, guys. The word is power. When you hear the word is power, right? So when you get a word, and this might sting somebody today, okay? But I promise you, the stinging is going to be worth it, because you ain't going to go into 2023 the same way. I promise you. How many of you have heard a word either on any of these mindset calls we've been doing for the last 3 years, or you've heard a word from church, you've heard a word from a friend who's prophetic, you've heard a word and you've said, that word has been for me. That was for me. Maybe on an IG Live, you heard someone talking, that word was for me. I received that. Oh, that word was for me. That word was for me. How many times have you said, oh yeah, I felt that one. That word was for me. Word is power. But then what happened? What I heard today was the word on its own, without your obedience, isn't going to do what needs to be done. Because otherwise you're going to keep saying, that word was for me. That word was for me. That word was for me, without the physical action, without the spiritual relationship of what that word meaning for you actually is. And so I want us to go into the new season, not just saying that word was for me, but actually being the word in which we say is for us. What is the action that you have to take? What do you need to submit to? What is the sacrifice? A lot of time we don't talk about sacrifices too much. Because when we talk about sacrifices, Dr. Sarah, people think that you got to go give a goat and stuff. Like, I will go bring in some dead animal to the altar, we casting out some goats. The sacrifice, guys. These principles. You know, I used to argue with my husband when we first got together around, Old Testament versus New Testament. We used to have this battle about, it's Old Testament days. Listen, it's relevant today as it was back then, guys. Let's not get it twisted. It might be looking a little bit different. We may not be handing over goats at the altar, but there is a sacrifice. I say all the time that in order for you to pray for it, you got to be willing to pay for what you pray for. So when you're praying for the strength, here's what the paying part is there's going to be an opportunity where God will test you to see if you have strength. So in actual fact, when you're praying for strength, you're praying for an opportunity to prove the strength. When you're praying for a breakthrough, you're praying for that financial. Who was it that there was a Instagram thing that where the guy was saying, hey, you're praying for the cake, but in one season, God's going to give you the eggs. In one season, he's going to give you the flour. In one season, he's going to give you the sugar. In one season, and if you're not mistaken, you're going to be like, God, where's the cake? Where's the cake? Where's the cake? This time, in the first season, he gave you the flour. Second season, he gave you the eggs. And all you have to do is put it all together. What am I saying, guys? When it comes to the wisdom, when it comes to your experiences, every single thing that we are in right now, everything that we are experiencing is part of the cake baking process. And if you miss out on the signs, if you miss out on the clues, if you miss out on what he's actually doing in our life, because we discredit ourselves, because we think that we're not good enough, or we think that it's not for us, or we think that we can't do it, we are actually missing out on the mission that he's called us to be. And so the first thing we got to accept, and I'm going to just be honest, I had to accept this a while ago, was I accept being a misfit. I accept being someone who just won't be like everybody else. I've accepted it. You either like me or bite me. You either like it or lump it, right? I've accepted it. Do you accept it? Where is anybody on this call somebody who just doesn't fit in, or you felt a certain type of way that you've not fit in. Maybe you didn't look like them. Maybe you didn't speak like them. Maybe you didn't dress like them. Maybe you didn't have, the right, I don't know, the right attitude like them. I don't know what it is, but I always felt it, and I had to accept that I just don't fit in. Maybe it's your family. Maybe you're the different one. How many of you have been called the black sheep? Why do you call people the black sheep? Right? I don't know where that even term came from, but the first thing we got to accept is that I'm okay with not fitting in. I understand, in fact, that the reason for me not fitting in, the bit that I don't fit in, that's actually the mission. That's actually my purpose. That's actually the calling. The reason why I don't fit in is because God wants to use that part of me to be able to get his glory. Right? That part of you that doesn't fit in is actually the bit that we all need. It's actually the part that people want to see, but you're so busy doubting yourself, you're so busy hiding it away, that guess what? You miss out. And so it's not the enemy. We blame the enemy so many times. It's not the enemy. The enemies are going to come. In fact, anytime a word is spoken over your life, where you say, hey, I receive it, anytime there's a word for you, remember, the word is power. And what does the enemy do? I wrote this down because this is a powerful one. The enemy does one of two things, guys. The enemy knows that the word in you is the same word that God used to create the world. The enemy knows that. The same word that God used to create the world is the same word that is in you. It's the Holy Spirit. Right? It's the same word. So the enemy wants to disarm you. So when you receive a word, you know what happens straight after? There's an attack. You receive a word, there's an attack straight after. Because that's the way the enemy will use to disarm you, okay? Because the enemy will do anything to distract you away from the power that's on the inside of you, the word that's on the inside of you. Have you ever felt attacked? Have you ever made a decision and the very next day you get attacked? Have you ever made a financial decision where you say, right, I'm going to pay for that, next day, tire pops, next day, something else, to distract you away from purchasing that thing or buying that thing or investing in yourself or doing something? All of a sudden, distraction, because the enemy understands if it can distract you away from your word, if it can distract you away from the mission, it disarms you from the power that's on the inside of you. Second thing the enemy does is when you receive a word, it attracts resistance. And this is why it's important that you have to set your atmosphere right with the words that you speak out of your mouth, with the music that you're surrounding in your house, with the prayers that you pray on a daily basis. That you set the atmosphere right so you're prepared for the attack. So when the attack comes, guess what happens? You're already ready for it. You see, what happens a lot is when the attack comes, we run. We abort mission. When the attack comes, we start to change the words that come out of our mouth and start to speak, oh no, I can't do this. Oh no, this isn't for me. Oh no, this is too hard. Oh no, everyone's against me. Oh no. When you understand that there's a call on your life, when you understand that the moment a word is spoken, you better make sure you got your atmosphere right. You want to make sure you're walking around your house, declaring health in your house, declaring wealth in your house, declaring coverance over your children, declaring coverance over your finances, declaring that, you are the head and not the tail, that you are the person that God called you to be, and that there's no lack in your household, that there's going to be peace in your household, that inside your household, there's going to be more speaks of blessing, more speaks of financial improvements, more speaks of elevation, less arguing, less tension, less fighting, that you're going to go around in your house and you're going to start making sure that boom, 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 you're setting the atmosphere. So when the attack comes, you're already ready for it. Your word doesn't change based on what the enemy decides to throw at you. And that's where a lot of us, we go into this that word was for me, but then the distraction comes and we lose the word because now we're focused on our words. Now we're focusing on what we're saying. Now we're focusing on doing what the mind says, the carnal behaviors, rather than understanding the spiritual side of this thing, which is the moment you're in a position where you receive a word, there will be an attack. Now, the question is who's ready to charge their atmosphere? Who's ready to make sure that they go into the new season with radical moves? Certain times you thought, oh no, you wouldn't do it. But God's going to make sure that he says, no, it's a radical type situation now, that you can do it, that it's not just for them. How many of you have been the ones that always shies at the back and just sits there quietly? Maybe it could be as simple as you always have your Zoom camera off. Maybe it could be as simple as when you get opportunity to speak, you don't speak. Maybe it could be even at the school, the parents, you just sit there quietly. Now is the season to get radical, for you to stand for who he says you are, for you to be connected to the right people, to make sure your atmosphere is charged. Guys, atmosphere is important. It's not just the physical, of your house. Atmosphere is who you're listening to. Atmosphere is who you're speaking to. Atmosphere is who you're interacting with on a daily basis. Do you know that, through mentoring thousands of people over the last few years, the number one thing that comes up is people? Like when I speak to people, whether they are winning or whether they feel like they're not winning, it's always people. I'm really winning because this person really helped me and this person connected with me and this person, or, I'm really down because of people. My mom doesn't believe in me. My dad doesn't believe in me. This person says this person says, it's always people. And so if we understand that, guess what? Sometimes it is lonely. Sometimes when you are a misfit, sometimes you're going to be lonely. But guess what? When you have the Holy Spirit, when you are connected to God, do you know you and God together is a majority? Have you ever been in a position where you put on your music or you've prayed and you just come out of that prayer feeling like nothing can't touch you? Like there's an encounter. When you have an encounter with God and you have that clarity in your mind, you're untouchable. And what we have to do is go into the new season with that, but armed now with a defense to know, okay, I understand when there's a word over my life. I understand that when this life, that God has ordained me for, it's going to come with an attack. So now we come with not, too many people. What is it that Pastor Luke said today? I wrote it down because it hit me. He said there's 4 things that stop people from, 4 things that stop people from having success in the new word. Right? So when you get that new word over you, that new word that you're convicted, you're ready, you're on it, right? But there's 4 things that stop people. The first one, he said, is you see it, you hear it, but you don't understand it. A lack of understanding, right? So maybe you hear a word, maybe you see the vision, but you don't have the understanding to really break it down. You don't have the understanding to really execute it in a way that's needed. Some people say, I've heard it all before, I've seen it before, I know what they're talking about, but seeing and seeing is 2 different things, right? Because there's vision and there's sight, okay? So the first thing he says is that people will simply just not understand because they're not sitting under good teaching. So who do you have around you that can give you good teaching, that can help you to understand, to break it down so you have clarity, real clarity around, how you go forward to execute that purpose and that mission? He asked a question on the live today and he said, what are our ears for? We've been given 2 ears. What are our ears for? What is the purpose of our ears, guys? Powerful question. Some people say to hear, right? Some people say to listen. But the ears, very simply, is the first step to the message. But the ears are really there for us to understand what is happening, right? Because hearing it is one thing, but understanding it is another thing, right? Actually understanding what you're hearing. Very important. So the first thing is most people, they have a lack of understanding. And so if you're somebody that doesn't really understand, you want to put yourself in an environment that's going to help you to understand. It's going to break down and really give you coaching, really help you to really construct what it is that's going to help you get to the next level. The second reason he says that some will hear, do a little bit, and then they lose themselves when things don't go their way. How many of you have been that person before? You do it for a little bit. Maybe there's a cash flow issue. Maybe there's a situation with, I know, family, or maybe there's a situation with the kids, or maybe there's a situation with your belief, or there's something you start, but you don't finish. And he said there's a lot of, people that get the word, they hear it, and they start, but they don't finish. Again, people keeps coming up. One of the things that I think is important is that we've got to give ourselves permission to stop feeling guilty for not inviting everyone to the table. Not everyone can come and sit at the table. Even Jesus had 12 disciples. He didn't invite the multitude to the table. Not everyone can sit at the table, and sometimes it's for their own benefit as well. Can you imagine? I have a friend who drives the cranes, the cranes. And can you imagine if he, who we got on? Jenny. Can you imagine, Jen, if my friend just came to you, I don't know, I don't think you have crane experience. You don't look like a craner to me. But he said, Jenny, come, I want to show you my work. Come and come with me, just follow behind me. And I'm going to climb up the crane and you just follow behind me. Now, he wants to bring you in, but you ain't qualified. In fact, by you going in with him who's qualified, he wants to help because he wants to bring you in so you make the money with him. But you could damage yourself. You could hurt yourself. In fact, if you fall, his boss is going to be asking him, who gave permission to Jenny to climb up that thing? Sometimes you want to bring people in because you so badly want to help them. But it'll be at their own detriment because they haven't gone through the process. They haven't made the sacrifice. They haven't had the submission. They haven't had the training. They haven't built the muscle. They haven't gone through the process. And so you got to be okay with not everyone coming to your table. You got to be selective about who follows you, because you must be able to, you see, I'm very selective on who follows me. I'm very selective on who I choose to sit around the table. Number one, because it is going to hurt them as well as hurting me if they are not fully equipped. But number two, when you're focused on a mission, when you have a word on your head, when you have a word over your life, and your primary energy is executing the word that God has given you, and you have people that are not dependable, or they are fully independent, they're fully dependent on you, they now take your primary energy away from the mission, away from the word over your life, and that energy is now put, and it's misguided. And so you got to be very intentional around where you're putting your primary energy going into the new season. Very, very important. So you have to forgive yourself for not inviting everyone to the table, because you understand that it's also best for them. Because the pain of sacrifice that you've gone through, the muscle, guys, you know, in my business, I had a message today. You know, we had a massive achievement today, and I had a message from someone who says, Nikki, I want to learn. I want to do exactly what you did to get that result. And I said, great. You've been around me for the last 2 months. It's like, yeah, Nikki, give me the plan. Like, I've been doing the plan. You have been with me. You've been watching me. There's no secret source. Is what you've been seeing is the source. So it's like this. How many of you think you're going to lose weight if you come to the gym with me and sit and watch me work out? How many of you think it is wise to come to the gym with me, sit and watch me work out, and then complain that you have not lost any weight? Because that's how ridiculous it is. You are seeing the blue. Sometimes right under our noses, we have the information. But because of our feelings, because of our comfort zone, we don't want to take on, you know, we don't want to take it on. And so we got to be diligent in this season, not to start and drop off because we feel a little bit uncomfortable. Not to start and drop off because it's hard. Not to start and drop off because it doesn't go exactly the way we want. Because the word has been spoken over your life, which means it cannot come back void unless you change the word. The third thing he said is that the person who hears the word, but they're worried and deceitful, and that's what destroys the word. How many of you have ever been worried before? Now, I know the word says, fear not. Cast all your fears unto me. Don't worry. And what stops worrying? A word. How many of you have ever been worried about something and then a word comes to you and then it eases the worry? You're no longer worried anymore. Okay? You're worried if you could pay the bill, and then someone rings you and says, hey, you know that 20 grand that I owed you? I owed you. I'm going to transfer it now for you. And you're like, oh, wow. Yes, let's go. Worry gone. All of a sudden, you know, because the word has stopped that worry. The word, you have, your worry was stopped by a word. So guess what? You don't have to wait for the physical manifestation. You have a word that you can stop the anxiety. You can stop the worry from the word. What does the word say, guys? It answers everything. It says, worry not, fear not. It tells you, cast your fears upon me. I am the truth, the life. I shall provide all your needs. So instead of a lot of the time, we're praying for the resource, we're worrying about the resource, we should be focusing on the source. When you focus on the source, guess what? The worry is gone. You're going to heal the worry with the word. How many of you have worried your way out of a problem? Never happened. Whether you worry or not, it's still there, right? You can't worry your way out of a problem. Very important. Worrying has destroyed so many words, so many missions. How many of you have met somebody and you could see the calling and the blessing over their life, and they're just so scared to take that leap? And you're like, oh, you got this, you can do this. And they just make excuses. They complain. And they know the word. They will reel off the word. But for love nor money will they execute. For love nor money, they just focus on the worries, focus on the lack, focus on all the things they can't do. And I tell you this, guys, if you want to transition into your word, you want to really be the word, worrying is not going to get you there. Speaking lack and negative over yourself is not going to get you there. And the fourth way that you can be when it comes to the word is you can hear it, understand it, and the harvest will come. How many of you want to be the fourth way? How many of you want to hear it, understand it, execute it, and the harvest comes? That's where we want to be. going into the new year. That's exactly where we want to be, guys. We want to hear it. We want to understand it. We want to execute it, take action, and see that harvest come by. So I challenge you, before you go into the new year, I'm going to give you some homework. What's your top 5 goals that you want to achieve over the next 12 months? Who are you going to surround yourself with that's going to help you get there? Who do you need to serve in order to fulfill that mission? Don't ask yourself how. Don't ask yourself how. Write those things down, and then write down what you need to do every single day in order to complete that. We're going to break it down. It's very exciting times ahead. I believe that the year coming, the next 12 months, we're going to see the biggest transformation that we have seen in a very, very long time. I believe that there's going to be some, generational wealth rocketeers, that we're going to see people skyrocket when it comes to, health, when it comes to wealth. There's going to be some people that are going to be, marching for their generation based on the information that they're going to execute in the next 12 months. I believe that there's going to be serious transformation. But we got to pursue the source. We got to make sure we stay grounded to the word, that we don't allow outside influences. We don't allow other words to come and contradict the word, that we understand that there's going to be attacks. We understand that there's going to be distractions, but we know that the word attracts that. So guess what we do? We make sure that we stay armed. We create an atmosphere that's going to encourage blessings, that's going to keep the faith, that's going to keep us speaking well, that we don't use certain words over ourselves, over our mission, over our family, that we're going to be strategic, that we're going to plan the way forward, that we're going to make sure we execute, take the mission seriously, that we accept that we may be misfits, we accept that we don't fit in, and we're absolutely fine with that because we know that he's going to make a way for us. I really want to encourage you as you go into the new season not to contradict the word that's given over your life. Go into this new season, not just, saying this word was for me, this word was for me, but go into this new season knowing that you're going to execute the word, that it's not going to be a same old type situation. And remember, guys, not everybody is going to receive the same level of harvest. The bigger the mission, the bigger the harvest. And so don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't compare yourself to them on the left. Don't compare yourself to them on the right. Stay focused on the mission. We got to stay focused. Forget the past. Forget the past. Forget the past. And be okay with not fitting in. Because you're not fitting in is what's going to take you to the next level in the new season. And I'm excited to hear the testimonies that's going to come forward. It's a very, very exciting place to be. I pray and, ask God that he will allow our minds to stay focused on the mission, that we will not abort our mission with our word, that we will not change the direction based on doubt and fear, and that we will not worry, but instead we will trust in the word, that we will be ready with resilience when enemies come our way to change our mind, and we will receive the harvest because we understand that, the God that we serve, he's already put a word over us and no one can take that word away. The anointing of God is on each and every one of our lives, and we are excited to see, the great things that he is about to do. I honestly believe that we're not going to drop the word in the next 12 months. We're not going to drop our word. We're not going to lose the battle because we're already expecting it when it comes. And I believe that the Spirit of God and the anointing will allow us to finish the work that he's asked us to start, that we will be able to go out and create and be the best version of ourselves. So we'll write the vision, we'll make it plain. And when we see it, and we'll have it around us every day, that will help us to run. And we're going to run all the way to wherever he wants us to be. So guys, Happy New Year. We're celebrating it now as if it's already done. I'm so excited to you know, to be here another day, another year as we go into the new year. And we're going to, you know, really make sure that we make it happen and hold each other accountable. For those of you inside the group already, hold each other accountable. It's advisable to have an accountability partner. You know, make sure you're holding yourself accountable to somebody who can check in with you and make sure that you're in alignment with who he needs you to be. Don't be apologetic about who's going to leave the table and who's not invited, because at the end of the day, it's going to protect you and it's going to protect them as well. And we're going to make this, you know, the best year yet. I believe if 2 or 3 of you believe with me, then we already know it's a done deal. So we're going to be resuming back on Mondays as we normally are. Monday is indeed the 2nd of January. It will be our first call of the year. Same link at 9 p.m. UK time. So we'll be back onto the normal time, Mondays, 9 p.m. Same link. And I will see you all then. So God bless you all. Okay, I'll see you guys in the community. And let's make sure that we are indeed healthy and wealthy going into the new season. All right. God bless you guys. Those of you taking on the new challenge, I'll see you in the challenge group as well. And let's make this happen. All right. Lovely to see you on, Sua. Love you lots, girl. Night, night, guys. God bless you. I'm going to pop this on the old YouTube, so it will be available again. And we're going to testify of the goodness. So if you've got anything from this, please comment on the YouTube or inside the community as well. That'll be really, really great. Good night. God bless you guys. Let's get it.